episode is called Packed Up All My Belongings while he was out of town.
Go ahead and stop it right there. One of the things that she said that I do want to get you guys' perspective on is she said, no man is going to love you the way I love you. No man is going to love you the way I loved you. I don't agree with him saying it, but it could be some truth to it, in my opinion. What do you guys think about when men say that to you ladies?
I don't have that kind of trauma, so that wouldn't bother me.
Okay. Well, has anybody ever had that said to them before, or know somebody that has, or just what are your thoughts about it?
I think it all depends on the intent behind it. If it's being used as a manipulative, tactic to make a woman feel kind of like what she was saying, like nobody's ever gonna love you, to make her feel some kind of way about not being loved, then I think that's wrong. But the statement within itself, I think is true, because each person loves individually, right? I have never been loved by any other like boyfriend. Like my first love loved me very different than my second real boyfriend, and then my second real boyfriend loved me different than now my current husband, right? No, so those are my three like real relationships that I've ever had, like an emotional connection, and each one of those relationships were very different. So in that statement is very true. So I agree with the statement, but I think it's the intent behind it, right? So the intent makes the difference.
All right. Who else had their hand raised? I think I've seen a couple fingers up. Go ahead, Angie. I think you was one of the fingers. No man is going to ever love you the way I loved you.
I think it's at minimum a yellow flag. I think that in whatever context a man uses that, it's coming from a place of insecurity or wanting to stifle you. I'm not, like I said, it doesn't have to define who you've been throughout the whole relationship. It may be something you say out of emotion, but it's not a positive thing. I don't think that it's a productive thing to say to someone that you honestly love. And I completely disagree about it coming from trauma. It's not about you, it's about the person who's saying it. So that's just my opinion.
Go ahead, Clout.
All right. So I think a statement like that, it really depends on the intention, and it really depends on how you take it. Because at the same time as he could, like, I've definitely heard of people who would say something like that to lower your self-esteem and essentially say like, hey, no one else is going to love you because you're not lovable. But I do think there are some instances where the intention might be to communicate to this woman like, hey, I love you so much that nobody else is going to match how much I love you. And now in this particular situation, I find it intriguing because as she decides to recount her life, this is where her mind goes back to, right? Her mind goes back to the person who gave her a ring, the person who engaged to her. And even though she said she was unhappy at the time, you can kind of tell that she looks back with a little bit of regret. And so my question is that what if he was telling the truth? Like, meaning like, what if it wasn't to break down her self-esteem, but he was telling the truth? Because I mean, since him, she hasn't been married. She didn't say that she was engaged more than once. It was this person. The way she described this person, she described him in very high regard. So what I think it might be is that during that point in her life, maybe she was looking for a lot of external validation, and maybe his validation just wasn't enough for her. So maybe that's why she viewed it in a negative way. But again, I don't know this guy. I don't know his intent, but I do think that there's a possibility that he wasn't trying to, belittle her, and was more so trying to tell her, hey, I love you this much that nobody else is going to love you this way again. And clearly she hasn't been loved that way again. No one's taken her up, no one's married her, and she's here at 40 years old podcasting about how she's 40 and single and alone. So it kind of, it's like, well, where do we go with it? Do we say he was trying to beat her down and make her feel less? Or was he really trying to tell her that, hey, like, whatever you're looking for out there, it don't exist. You're looking for something, but I'm it. You're not going to find this love that I'm giving you nowhere else. And maybe he was just confident enough to say that with honesty. But again, I think we would really have to know the guy to really make a full determination. But I'm just throwing that out there as an option because I don't want it to be a one-sided conversation.